If you've been using Tinybird for any period of time, then you've probably created an API from a pipe. It's a well-trodden and well-loved path, and it's perfect for sharing the data products that you've built with external engineering stakeholders. But sometimes you don't always want to publish an API. Sometimes you just want to create an intermediate table that you can query over within Tinybird. Now, you could use Materialized Views for that, and sometimes you will, depending on the use case. But Materialized Views can be pretty complex, and they're not always the right choice here. Sometimes you just want to create a periodic snapshot, and for that, you can use something different. That is where copy pipes come in. So in this screencast, I'll show you how to create a copy pipe for a common use case, deduplication, in both the Tinybird UI and the CLI. Let's jump right in. Okay, so I've got this workspace called Copy Joe's, and I've used Mockingbird to generate some mock data for timestamped orders for my global Sloppy Joe restaurant chain of the same name. The slogan is, Copy Joe's, there ain't no substitute. No. Anyways, all the orders are streaming into this data source called order events, and unfortunately, the people who set up our order streaming infrastructure didn't use an exactly once approach, and now I've got duplicate orders that I need to deal with. So I created this simple pipe which only returns data for an order ID with the max timestamp. Basically, I'm getting the latest record for every order and deduplicating in that way. And you can see that I've also added this parameter there where I could filter by the store ID if I wanted to. So let's create a copy pipe. Now on the node whose result we want to copy, we click those three little dots and select Create Copy Job. Then we want to define how this gets executed. You can either execute on a schedule using a cron expression, or you can execute it on demand, for example, using a CLI command from a CI workflow or a DAG or some other automation. Now for scheduled copy jobs, keep in mind that there are limits on how often you can run a copy job depending on your workspace and your plan. For more information on how you can track that or documentation, there's a link in the YouTube description below. Now, if you do select on demand, you have the option to define the default parameter that gets passed when the copy job is triggered if your pipe has parameters like mine does. Finally, you'll select your destination, either a new data source or an existing one. Now, if you select a new data source, you can set it up as you would any other Tinybird data source, defining the name, description, and tweaking the schema as you need. And then you'll create that copy job. From there, you'll be taken to the copy pipe page where you can monitor the copy jobs. If you set it up as an on-demand job, you can run a copy job by going up here and clicking Run Copy Now. And if you wanted to edit the schedule or detach the copy jobs from the pipe, you could do that here as well. And now you can see that we have this new data source, which contains the results of that pipe copied on demand. Now, let's move over to the CLI. So we're going to truncate this data source and detach the copy job from that pipe. So then we can run this back in the CLI. So I've already set up my data project and authenticated to that workspace. So let's go ahead and pull the Tinybird resources down from the server and place them into their respective directories with tb pull auto. We're going to open up that order deduplication pipe file with them. So to turn this into a copy pipe, you can append these 3 lines of code to the end to set the type as copy, set the schedule, and then define the target data source, which, by the way, must already exist when you're using the CLI, so keep that in mind. And then go ahead and save that file and use tb push force and the pipe file path, and you'll see that the copy job has been created with the schedule. Now, if you want to run any copy job on demand, just use tb pipe copy run and the pipe name. And then you can also use tb job ls to review copy jobs that have been executed. Note that if you want to detach the copy job from the pipe and revert this back to just a normal old pipe with an endpoint, you just remove those lines of code from the pipe file and then push it back to the server. And that's how you do it. Copy Joe's orders deduplicated with copy pipes in the Tinybird UI and CLI. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the documentation, which has a lot more information about how to use this feature, is linked below. If you have any questions about it or any other Tinybird feature for that matter, please join us in the Slack community. I've also linked to it below. And with that, I am going to go make a Sloppy Joe.